in yesterday's IPL action. The Delhi Capitals secured a thrilling victory over Rajasthan Royals. Of course, Sadanand Vishwanath has a point and we'll come to him the first. By winning by 20 runs, it was a high-scoring affair, with Delhi posting a formidable total of 221 runs thanks to an impressive batting performance by Jack Fraser-McCourt and Abhishek Porel. Despite a valiant effort from the Rajasthan, Sanju Samson, who scored 86 runs, they fell short of the target. Now shifting our focus on today's match between Sunrisers Hyderabad and Lucknow Super Giants in Hyderabad. The previous encounter, Lucknow Super Giants have emerged victorious in all three matches against Sunrisers. However, with a revamped strategy and a determined mindset, Sunrisers are winning and aiming to turn the tables. This time around, led by Captain Cummins, they are eager to register their first win against Lucknow, playing their home ground. Of course, it always adds on to the pressure. Well, of course, but Lucknow's strong performance cannot be underestimated. It's sure to be an exciting cricket clash between the two competitive teams. We've got a high-profile panel of experts, media professionals and former cricketer. Let me go on to Sadanand Vishwanath. Sadanand Vishwanath, we looked at Sanju Samson, and this is my first question to you. You remember the 2022, the controversy of no ball between the two teams when they played, and the second time last night when there was a catch controversy. Can I request my PCR to show me the picture of the catch controversy right now and get in Sadanand Vishwanath and just tear open what, yes, these are the pictures that you're seeing right now on your screen. Sadanand, over to you. What went wrong? Who's at fault? And because of that fault, do you think Rajasthan lost the match? Your views.
Hi Sunil, hi David, hi Steve, and good evening viewers all over the world. See, even with the advent of Hawkeye technology,
yes,
and you're using lasers, you're using infrared cameras,
right,
you know, that human factor always steps in.
Right.
Human error always happens in cricket. And at this point of time, when it was referred to the third umpire gave it out without even asking for another replay. He could have used the zoom, he could have used angles from different cameras, he could have seen if there was a little bit of shake of the cushion. If the cushion had shaken slightly, that means that the foot of Shai Hope has touched the cushion. And also, if you look at the spirit of the game, Sunil,
yes,
when Shai Hope was near the boundary line, he immediately after taking the catch, he was alarmed as if he had touched the line. His arms went back, his head went back, and then he turned around and nonchalantly he claimed for the catch. And that's the time the umpire went up to the third umpire. And what created the controversy was nobody bought that decision. The third umpire did not sell the decision. He has to use the technology available and convince the audience that whether it's out or not out, you need to sell your decision to the audience, to the global audience. And I, for one, felt that there was a feather touch and Shai Hope had just touched the rope. It was not out, and that certainly cost Rajasthan Royals the match.
Well, you spoke about spirit of the game. Well, the spirit of the game has been missing. You've watched it. You know how it happens when the high-pressure game is there. One instance, if you know, Shrikant, actually Krishnamacharya Shrikant, knocked the bails off. Very nonchalantly, he kept the bails back and the match was on. But that was then. And this is now. It still doesn't happen, the spirit of game. It's largely kept for Lords. I'm going to introduce you to David Brooks.
That was not Shrikant. That was W.G. Grace many years ago. Because when Shrikant was playing, there were cameras. That was W.G. Grace. Perhaps it was Jeffrey Boycott. But I think it was W.G. Grace many years ago. Because Sunil, he was a very eminent doctor. And the umpires too, they never gave him out. Because if they give him out, then he would never, look after them properly as a doctor. That was the thing.
Well, that was, whoever that was, David is going to set the records right. David, was the spirit of the game missing? Or was there any problem, Rajasthan lost the game because of the faux pas?
Well, I mean, such an amazing amount of pressure on every individual player in this tournament. I suppose that's what makes IPL unique, is, how much everyone wants to win the game, and the sheer with the crowds and the level of competition. This is as competitive as cricket ever gets, including test matches. So it's, that's the most impressive thing about the IPL. So I wouldn't like to add anything to what Satnam's said on this particular incident. Did it cost Rajasthan Royals the game? I mean, I thought that the way that Delhi are playing now, they've really turned the corner, haven't they? And putting together some great performances. And Sanju Samson as an individual, he's really talk about justifying your place in the World Cup squad. I know we've been debating about wicketkeepers with the eminent Satnam and Sadnan, and I'm sure Sadnan would agree that Samson's really earned his place now in that World Cup squad. He keeps putting together these performances. He's been so consistent, and we can forgive him the odd blip here and there because his batting performances have been so great.
Absolutely. Tatinda, not Taibu, Zimbei. I've got it right this time. Just throw some stats on us and tell us why this match is so critical, and then we'll get Paul Dennett, who's not Steve.
Okay, no, this match is very critical because both teams are locked on the same number of points. And the way things are turning out, net run rate could actually be a big factor in it. So whoever loses today's game, because there has to be a winner, whoever loses, they stay outside of the top four.
Yes.
Whoever wins, they're clearly inside of the top four, and their net run rate is none the worse. So that's really what's at stake. And when there's only 2 games left, I think for both teams, it's absolute must win, because a loss, I think, would pretty much make it really, really difficult for you to get into the top 4.
Well, our Zimbabwean friend always talks about the choker tag. Let's go on to someone who's actually experienced more celebration than the choker's tag. That's Paul Dennett from Australia. Paul, welcome to the show. Just imagine the plight. If SRH loses the match today, they're going to skip or slide down to the 6th position. Just imagine. Isn't it falling from grace? Because they've been scoring 250, 260, 270, and they've been smashing all records. And if I could look at the records right now, they've scored the highest number of sixes in this, and they've scored the highest number of power play runs through sixes. So, what do you think of this team called SRH?
Well, firstly, hi, Sunil. I can't take any credit for Australia's success because the Australian selectors continue to refuse to pick me. But it's funny because Sunrisers Hyderabad have been in many ways the most exciting team in the tournament, and you sort of look at the table and get a surprise that, as you say, that they're on the cusp of dropping out of the top 4. Their top order have strike rates that almost look like they're fake. Yet there's an issue with their consistency, and also I think an issue with the lack of their spin bowling not being so successful. So it's a massive game tonight. Just what I had my own 2 cents worth on what happened last night. The funniest bit for me was when Sanju Samson tried to challenge the decision, and it would have been a situation of the third umpire having to rule on whether he himself had made a correct decision, which obviously couldn't have happened. But I thought it was certainly a humorous. Wouldn't have been humorous if you were a Rajasthan Royal fan or player, but as a neutral, it was quite amusing.
Well, that was a very interesting point you made. David Brooks, what do you make of a situation when you have 3 batters scoring exactly 63% of the runs in the power play, and then boom, you're out there at the top of the table? Today, when we look at the batting records, Tatinda, just bail me out with those records of Mr. Sharma.
Okay, so Mr. Sharma, I think he's been perhaps one of the more consistent performers in the last few games. Going back 4 games now, against RCB, he had 31. Against Delhi Capitals, he had 46. And against RCB again, he had 34. But against Punjab, he got 16. So I think that
David Brooks, when you have scores of 31, 46, 34, 16, what do you talk about Abhishek Sharma? Because the problem is when one of these 2 gets out sooner, Klaasen can't hold on to it, isn't it? Statistically, they just go and play as if they're playing for the opposition. David Brooks, your views.
Well, yes, Sunil. I mean, Abhishek looks like he's going to go on big, and then doesn't. I mean, Travis Head, to me, the Australians hold the key today. Sparing Paul's blusters. It's the Aussies who are going to determine the outcome of this match. On the one hand, Travis Head and Pat Cummins. On the other hand, Marcus Stoinis, who seems to be start doing better as the tournament goes on. Whereas I was putting it to Paul just before we went on air that is Pat Cummins looking weary? Is he looking a bit tired now with all the responsibilities on his shoulders? I mean, Clarkson's the other one, I guess, who needs to come back and contribute in a meaningful way for Sunrisers. Their batting has dropped off a little. They've got home advantage today. LSG missing, of course, de Kock, who is injured. I wonder whether they'll give a game at long last to Carl Mayers, the West Indian, the Barbadian, who hasn't had a game yet, because he can make a big difference. But I agree that slight weakness at the top of the order for SRH is not helping their cause at the moment.
Well, Quinton de Kock seems to be an Achilles heel when it comes to the Lucknow Super Giants. David Brooks, you want to talk about two of the good scorers, KL Rahul and Stoinis, and Puran as well, but Quinton de Kock seems to be a different player altogether from what we saw him 6 months ago for the World Cup.
Well, KL Raoul's been batting as though he's got a point to make to the Indian selectors, hasn't he? He's looked very good and strong in this tournament. Okay, he didn't succeed last time round. Would he come good again today when the pressure's on? Good. I think there's a good chance of it. Stoinis, as I say, he's looked extremely impressive recently. He's one of the batsmen of the tournament turning out to be.
Right.
Nicholas Puran, very dangerous player, as we know, just hasn't quite clicked in the last few innings. If they can put it together today, it's a tough order for them. They're not at home. They're going into SRH's territory, but they've got the players, and Rahul's got a point to prove, and he's in good form. So I wouldn't count against them.
LSG, in the next 3 matches, they have no home team, no home game. SRH, they play against in Hyderabad today. Then they move on to Delhi and face Delhi in Delhi, and then move on to Delhi, move on to Mumbai. Sadaran Vishwanath, if you were to play the Delhi team in Delhi, Mumbai team in Mumbai against the boisterous crowd, won't you think it's easier to play SRH today considering their form right now? Otherwise, it's going to be one heck of a mayhem for them. Sadaran.
Yeah, the home support, like we've been talking about, is very important.
Correct.
You will have a boisterous crowd. Yeah, you will get the opponents, shouting at you and booing you and trying to, put a lot of pressure on you. But these guys are all very professional, and they will not allow themselves to soak in that kind of negative pressure. They actually will cherish that kind of pressure to make them play a much better game. They might use it as a reverse kind of a psychology.
That's correct.
And I think I would use that and tell my boys to just silence the crowd with your performance. So you don't need to talk back to them, or you don't need to get angry or volatile with them. Just prove a point with the bat and the ball.
Well, Tatinda, let's talk about the subplot between Langer and Cummins. Okay. Before we get our Aussie friend in for this.
That's precisely who I actually wanted to throw this to, because if you do recall, I think some while ago when Justin Langer was the head coach, he had a bit of an acrimonious falling out. I think you heard reports that him and Cummins weren't necessarily on the best of terms. So I wondered if there was some extra fire.
Let's throw it to him. Let's throw it to an Aussie to talk about the dispute, the rift, and the drama.
It was huge. It was a massive, massive story when Justin Langer was offered a very short contract extension, which basically was a slap in the face to him, and he declined it. The Australian country was split down the middle as to pretty much literally, because Western Australia, where Justin Langer is from, we're all siding with Justin Langer, to the point where they were saying that maybe the attendances the next summer at Perth, the Perth Test match, which were poor, were partially as a protest at how angry they were that Justin Langer had been treated that way. I really like Langer, but I did actually side with Cummins, because I think that Langer came across as a very intense person when he was managing the Australian side. They probably needed that initially, but then, especially with Cummins taking over as captain, I think he's a very calm individual, and I think Andrew McDonald, the current coach, really suits him. And they had enough of, as Usman Khawaja had said to Justin Langer's face, that players are walking around on eggshells around you, JL, and they wanted to kind of not have that football manager mentality of being in your face and that ultimate pressure. And so the players kind of exercised their power, and Langer was, moved on. I thought Cummins handled a difficult situation well, but the ex-players, all of Justin Langer's generation, kind of sided with him. There's nothing being said very much publicly about it, but I do think that there's a lot riding on it. I think that there is a little bit of bad blood between these two. Not terrible, but there's certainly something there, I think.
David Brooks, do you want to add on to something? Very acrimonious relationship between the coach, the Aussie coach and the Aussie captain. Do you want to talk a little bit about it and bring it in today's context with a glee on your face?
Well, I think that Justin Langer is a changed man as a result of all that. Whatever happened to him then, when you see him now in press conferences or his appearances, whenever he's interviewed during the IPL, he's gone out of his way to look like laid back, relaxed, enjoying it, saying how much he's enjoying it, getting behind his players. So maybe it was a bit of a learning process for Justin Langer. We all saw on the Amazon documentary behind the scenes how intense it got with Justin Langer, forcing the Aussies to watch a replay of one of their defeats. And, as Paul said, more like the football approach. Whereas Pat Cummins, he is a mature individual, probably doesn't need that. And the partnership between him and McDonald's worked well. So Justin Langer's really changed as a result. And the beneficiaries are probably LSG because they found they've got a very affable, friendly, relaxed coach in Justin Langer. His first experience of this tournament, he's gone out of his way to say how much he's enjoying it. But below the surface, he's an intense competitor. So it's wonderfully placed today as that subplot, as you
David
say,
Brooks,
Sunil.
the smile it brings onto your face when you take daggers on Aussies and the Aussie coaches. Let's talk about the English players and the English coaches. Unfortunately, there's not even a single coach from England who's coaching, and there's not even a support staff or a player who's making his mark. Does it bother you as an Englishman?
Well, don't forget Trevor Penny, a fielding coach for one of the teams. I think it does. I think the absence of good English coaches, I think is a problem, and England has to face up to that. And the lack of support staff also. Where are the English bowling coaches, etc.
I wonder where have they disappeared. Where have they disappeared, David? Have they? I mean, is the sale outrightly only eligible for the Aussies? I mean, for the IPL to pick up the support staff and the coaches? India and England seem to be missing the cut.
Yeah, no, well, you'd have to ask the franchise owners. I mean, there's no one really putting their hands up in the English game to really take any of those places. The question is, when the England players, they're pulling out the tournament early, will anyone notice? Josh Buttler looks like he's already mentally spent. The way that he's slight abuse of the impact player rule, isn't it, Sunil? When someone just comes out and bats and doesn't do anything else, and sit, and the rest of the time he's just resting on his laurels. So whether people will miss Josh Buttler, whether people will miss Johnny Bairstow, they've each peaked probably. And Sam Curran probably has been the most competitive.
David.
But no, you're right, Sunil. You make a good point about the absence of coaches.
Absolutely.
And there's no one really pushing for a place.
Okay, let me throw you a 15-second quick question. Does it bring smile to watch Jeffrey Archer playing a local game?
I mean, he's really been put in cotton wool, hasn't he? Yes, playing club cricket for his old team in Barbados as preparation for a World Cup. He should be playing for Sussex. He should be getting some experience, or out here in the IPL, having a couple of games or whatever. But it's just good to see him, back on a playing field. But it's asking a lot of him to step up from playing club cricket in Barbados to playing in the forthcoming World Cup, that's for sure.
Sadan Vishwanath, we go on, shift our focus very sharply, and we are at the fag end of our program, very sharply. SRH created the baseball effect. They walked into, they dazzled, they waltzed. In the first part of it, they scored unbelievably, at times, as Paul Dennett puts it, it looked like fake. I mean, those numbers were tempered when you look back. But today, they're at 4, 5, 6. If they lose, they'll never make a comeback for the playoffs. I mean, is cricket a great leveler? That's the question we need to answer.
Well, from time immemorial, cricket has been a great leveler, and cricket has caught the imagination of people all over the world. The mystery and the apprehension and the anxiety and all that comes with cricket has made the game more attractive to even the lady cooking your meal in the kitchen. He comes outside to watch the television. So it has attracted a new kind of an audience, a new UP kind of a crowd. Cricket has spread its tentacles, it's gone global, and it's here to stay, especially the T20 version.
Absolutely.
And I think coming back to SRH, you were talking about they might slip into fourth, fifth or sixth. Actually, Sunil, SRH have got 3 games at home. That's their bastion. That's their fort, the fortress. So I think Pat Cummins' team, if they win this one, can try and make it off into the playoffs. It's a huge game for LSG because LSG are coming off a lackluster performance in the previous game against KKR.
That's correct.
Where not only did they concede 200 runs, they were one of the first teams to concede 200 runs at the Sports City, to KKR. And they were dismissed for a very meager score. So I think the lackluster performance of LSG have to get improved, and KL Rahul will have to really motivate all his batters to fire on all cylinders tonight.
Sadanand, who's your favorite team? Who are you backing tonight?
I think I would give SRH the edge. I think SRH has a very good chance to win tonight.
SRH playing at home, Titinda, do you think they'll make the cut, or LSG will throw all their best daggers at them and shots at them?
I think they've got too much of an arsenal. I think they will probably walk away with this one. I don't think it won't be as close.
Whose day we are talking about?
Sunrisers will win.
Sunrisers. We've got 2 for Sunrisers. Again, we'll leave David at the last. Paul Dinette.
I also think Sunrisers Hyderabad. I note that Glenn Phillips has been listed as a potential starter. I think that he's someone they should have been playing all tournament long. And they're sort of listing him as an alternate for Marco Jansen. I'd pick him. He's a handy spin bowler, phenomenal batter. He played really well against Australia in the recent series. If they pick him, I'm even more confident. If they don't, I'm just leaning towards SRH.
So we have 3 for SRH. David Brooks, the man in form who always gets it right. Tell me, where's your money tonight?
Well, if my money was on it, I'd go LSG because they're not the favourites. People are thinking SRH can't possibly lose this. Well, they can lose it. And we've seen before, there's plenty of upsets in this format. The weak link for me in SRH is Mr. Jansen.
Yes.
He went for 45 off 3 overs. If he starts getting hit around and Marcus Stoinis could do the damage, then I think SRH could be vulnerable. So, look, in the interest of variety, I'm going to go LSG because they're not fancied.
David Brooks, this is a live television.
They could pull it off.
You must realize this is a live television. We're going to come back tomorrow and show you this clip. If you get it wrong, because this will be the first time, and we'll let your Aussie friend take all the digs at you, and the Zimbabwean friend sledge you to no limit. Well, that's all we had time for.
Bring it on.
That's all we had time for. We had all the stats, the talking about the laws, the rules, the games, the expectations.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.